Shop Talk is back. With the support of LSETF, we're sat down with some young, brilliant entrepreneurs to learn the secret behind their success so that just maybe we can do the same thing. Tola, how are you?
I'm doing good,
And how's, because I mean, there's no denying COVID, right? So how's the last year and a half affected you business-wise and how you think?
I think with the unique situation of our country, how I think hasn't really changed. How I respond has changed.
Yeah.
As far as business is concerned, of course, being heavily invested in the hospitality sector, I knew from day one. I knew it wasn't going to be a journey. I remember putting all my staff together in one room just when they announced the lockdown, or when we were going to go into lockdown in March 2020.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of people in Nigeria didn't understand, even the elite, didn't understand the enormity of what was about to happen. The staff obviously looked at it like, okay, we'll be done we'll go home for 4 weeks and then we'll come back. And I sat these guys down and I explained to them, I said, look, what is about to happen, right? It's going to be life-changing for us as individuals and us as a business. Unfortunately, some people might make it, some won't, right? I said, look at the guy on your left and look at the guy on your right, because you might not see him. The next time we're all in this room, if ever, we come back in this room, because there are circumstances that you can't control, right? And I knew straight away that I had to begin to re-strategize and plan, put a 24-month plan in place of what we can stomach as a business. And that happened across all the different businesses. So from the restaurants, I opened my hotel. My first hotel was opened a week before COVID hit. So you can imagine, after dumping over $1 million in an investment, and you're about to open and start recouping. You've done this grand red carpet opening, and then 2 weeks after, the government announces a nationwide lockdown. Of course, that threw me away straight into panic. But again, like I said, the way I respond is what has changed. So, okay, what do I do that can keep the wheels rolling? And, I'm not going to go into too much of the details, but we survived it. I made a very, very important phone call. When the lockdown hit, the hotel was positioned very strategically in VI. And I knew straight away that there were some services that cannot afford to shut down. ATMs have to run, POSs, transactions have to happen, because people have to live. So I made a phone call straight away to the CEO of InterSwitch, Mitchell, who's a friend and mentor. And I said, look, Mitchell, what's going on? You guys have to operate. You guys are the backbone of every banking infrastructure in Nigeria. What are you guys going to do? Is it lockdown? You guys have to stay somewhere. Take my hotel. I'll crash my rates by 70-80%. Take my place.
And let something be happening.
He took my entire hotel throughout COVID.
That's smart business, and
response.
Even the thought to even think of
so
that.
the response, exactly, because in Nigeria and our environment, it's fire brigade approach most times. You know what I mean? We're always looking to put out fires because of lack of planning. But what I've learned over my 11 years of doing business in Nigeria since I moved back is it's all about your response, because the problems are not going to go away. So, are you ready to respond in a way where you don't sink? So it's been challenging. It's unique. Our business is unique because it's not just Lagos-based. A different experience in Calabar, different experience in Enugu, in Abuja. It was all different experiences. Having to manage all the different moving parts was pretty interesting. But again, we're determined to hang in there. It's still not over. We're still not back to
normal.
Yeah,
if normal. There is normal again, right?
But we're resilient people. We came into business to win and to stay. So that attitude didn't change. Kept focused. I also happened to be in a vital sector, which is the pharmaceutical sector as well. So during COVID, I was very busy. So I was never locked down. So I had a pass. So I was always on the road, because at that point the country needed all the pharmaceutical players to step their game up, to support in whatever way. So I was doing that throughout COVID, back and forth. I went to my factory almost every day in Ogun State. Of course, the roads were clear, so it took me about 15 minutes every day. But I plowed the roads every day to the factory to ensure we're ramping up on production, we're moving things out to the hospitals. So it was also a busy period. So again, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. COVID was bad for my hospitality business, but was helpful for my pharmaceutical business, because the government all of a sudden realized that there's a huge pharmaceutical and medical deficit in the country that cannot be fixed for another 20 years. But you need to start somewhere. And for the first time in a very long time, the government stretched their hands out saying, guys, what can we do for you? So that was pretty interesting. But the fight doesn't end. For me, like my usual illustration with business in general is 12 rounds of boxing. I box every day. I do it because I love it. I do it because it's a good workout. It helps me distress. Your business life is like 12 rounds of boxing. You can prepare for a boxing fight for 2 years, and you get knocked down in the first 10 seconds. Or you can go into the ring and fight your heart out for 12 rounds. Someone has to win, lose, or draw. But you give your best for the 12 rounds, and hopefully you get the results you're looking for.
One of the very early things you said, right, was the first thing you did when lockdown was announced was you brought your team together. Now, with so many different things, when you're looking at business, right, how large, because your team might go down to your core business stuff, leadership, and then there's also right at the bottom of the chain in terms of stuff. Now, when you're cultivating a team, what is important to make sure that people are all part of your vision, and how do you take it from being these are employees and these are staff to this is actually a team? How do you cultivate that atmosphere in a business?
So my general style of leadership is to throw my management structure into the deep end. It's either you can swim or you drown. If you're drowning, I'll let you drink some water for some time, and I can pull you out. I'm not this spoon feeding kind of boss. I try and lead by example. So and that's one thing that people lack. People go into businesses and they're not fully educated about the business. It's just driven by passion, and I'll come there later. But what I try and do is understand the business well enough, right, to bring on people, right, who have unique skills that can complement each other, complement myself, and let them independently, take the wheel and drive. And they have to live by whatever mistakes they make, and mistakes come with punishments. I don't hold back from bringing out the whip for these guys, but I let them know it's coming from a good place, because one day they want to be in my own shoes, they want to own their own business, they want to do things the right way, and I see it more as investment in young people as opposed to just investment in skills, because I try as much as possible to keep my age bracket for employment low, at least within the youthful age, just so I can indirectly or directly mentor people by leading by example. So I cover them, because in Nigeria you always want to feel like you have some kind of cover. Because even people even us in our positions, wherever it might be, we have egbons, we have parents, we have people in government that we can always wake up one morning and be like, what, there's trouble, but I can make a phone call. You know what I mean? So you want your management guys, you want your people in your team to also feel they have that cover. My boss has my back, in whatever in whatever it is, whether it's your personal life, whether it's work, whatever it is. So I keep that door open, and I try to just lead by example. They know, you send me an email, you expect a response within 7 minutes. Regardless, the only time I won't respond is between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. From 5 a.m. I'm up. So, and if I'm in the plane, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. So I'm never disconnected. They see it as, oh wow, he doesn't really need to be doing this. So those things help motivate the guys, but I also like to leave some level of control with them. so they can grow, and so they can build their confidence.
How do you make that decision? And I say that from the perspective of like knowing when you have gotten your team to a point and your people to a point where you can actually step away, because especially because you're in so many different areas and you have businesses in so many different fields. How do you know when you've kind of gotten to that point where you can step away from this now, you can trust the people you've got?
So the biggest mistakes we make as businessmen or entrepreneurs is, like I said, we don't know the business well enough. So we fear that losing control might lead to some kind of disaster. Right? I can break down your operations with my eyes closed if I'm there for 6 months or if I'm not. Right? From one email, I can bring out 7 different things that have gone wrong. And they know because I understand the operations end to end. I'm not a chef, but I understand what portioning is, what reorder levels are, your SOPs. I know everything about your SOPs. I don't know how to cook the food, but I know everything with the back end structure. So when you send me an email saying we ran out of this, right, or this was rejected, 2 things have happened. The guys in the procurement or the guys in the stores didn't follow the SOPs. I can flag straight away. So I'm never afraid to give people, delegate and give people responsibility, because I can easily pick up on when they're either about to go wrong or they have gone wrong. So the main reason is we pay so much attention on things like finances, which is important, and marketing and advertising and the glamour of the business. That's the biggest mistake with entrepreneurs in Nigeria. They focus more on Instagram and Facebook success as opposed to being successful at the back end. For the longest time, I'm always tell people I'm a back end guy. I'm a guy, you don't see me, but you hear my voice. You know what I mean? I try as much as possible to understand everything. I'm not a doctor. I didn't even study anything related to medicine, but I'm in pharmaceuticals. It's crazy. But I had to learn. If you're going into something, understand it fully. So, you never stop learning, but you have enough knowledge to carry
so
on.
I can step out.
Exactly. Yeah. And you always have to also, of course, you have to try and pick the right talent. It's very hard to identify what is right and what is wrong in Nigeria, but it's, in the world in general, but it's a lot easier when you have knowledge as well, because when you have knowledge going into an interview, the questions to ask, the kind of body language, the response from them tells you a lot. You can use a response from an interview, and you can use that to predict what kind of person this guy will end up being. But that's as a factor of the knowledge you've gained over a period of time. So for me, of course, it wasn't always like this. Again, 11 years isn't really, it's not a lot, but it's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And in the early days, it wasn't always like this. But I think in my early days, what I did was to start my journey of learning. I took on majority of the roles to understand it. So I'm doing finance, I'm doing management, I'm doing stores, I'm doing procurement. So I took all that to gain as much knowledge, use that to build the structure, and let it run.
It's funny that's come up a lot. The idea, I guess, of bootstrapping, taking as much on for yourself in the early days, so you actually understand it. That by the time you step away from it, you've had experience in every part of the business. You're not saying, let me just start this business and then walk away from it. I want to start with 355.
Right.
How do you go about saying, this is something I want to get in? And what decisions do you need to make to say that this is a viable business? Because I know restaurant business is generally considered a very risky business to be in.
It is. So, well, with 355, so a lot of people don't know this, but 355 was born from another business. And before 355, I had a laundromat and a cafe in the same location. And I ran that business for 2 years. It was a little cafe. So the idea was, it was the first laundromat in Nigeria. And the idea was, to bring the Western culture of you taking your dirty clothes to a laundromat. You wash the clothes, you dry the clothes, you pack it up in a bag and you go home. And but then I put a little twist to it because Nigerians don't read. There wasn't really a lot of social media then, so people are going to be bored. So throw in a cafe, serve food, coffee. People can do their work while the laundry is being done. And that was good. So so for 2 years, I ran that. Understood a little bit about the F&B business, but my passion was, has always been the lifestyle business. Lifestyle covers a lot. Lifestyle, hospitality. So restaurants, and that's why I'm in restaurants, lounges, I'm in fitness as well, and then hotels. So the first phase was 355 after the cafe. So the cafe kind of, I rounded that up. I moved the laundromat to the Lekki Ajah area to service the VGC area and all that, and then we refurbished the building, and 355 was born. And moving into it, I always knew, and I always tell people this: passion is not enough. People go into business because they're passionate. Passionate can only get you very far. You're going to be tested. Your passion is going to be tested when all the issues come, and you're going to begin to think, is it worth it? Is it not? So I wasn't just going to go into it from the fact that I love the lifestyle hospitality business. The passion was there, but I went into it to change the narrative. So when I opened 9 years ago now, there wasn't a lot of indigenous Nigerian-owned places. I felt like the hospitality sector was heavily dominated by foreigners. Whether local foreigners, because of course a lot of them are second generation foreigners who are pretty much Nigerians. So no disrespect to anyone, but I felt like Nigerians needed to get more involved. I needed to do it the right way. So I was going with passion and a movement. And at the back of my mind, I knew I couldn't fail, because me failing would mean I failed my people. And me failing would mean I shut the door, because I'll be a bad example to a lot of people who had it in their head. So that drove me to ensure I'm doing things the right way, ensure the structure is right, the business is right, the environment is right, and that reduced the risk. When you're going after something with passion, as well as to prove a point, to open people's eyes and create a new sector, you're almost at zero risk, because whether you win, lose, or draw, you're going to prove your point that it was done, and it can be done. Whether it can be done better by other people or whatever it is, I'm going to go into this, and that's what we did. And of course, I stood my ground, and and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and and 24 months after we opened, it opened a completely new sector. I mean, I can't begin to tell you. I mean, a lot of people, when I tell people that we're 9 years old, people can't believe it, and I can't begin to tell you how many people that came to 355 and saw what we were doing, whether it was the interior, or it was the menu and lift, it was the staff. Even we changed the narrative with how people looked at waiters and waitresses and all that. We created a new sector, and for me, that's the most exciting part. And my scaling has always been around that same mindset. Let's do this 2x, 3x, 4x, 6x, 10x. Because you're creating jobs, you're opening up a sector for people, and I think it's been a rough road, but I'll do it all over again.
So you said, and you've said twice now, right, that passion isn't enough. So if you're going something and you've got a passion for it, and that's all well and good, what kind of questions, especially in a Nigerian environment, do you say it's important for people to be able to ask themselves and answer before they take that risk and that step?
So passion is good, because with passion you get creative, right? But in the environment that we're in, the reason why I'm saying passion is not enough is because unfortunately you don't have the luxury of sitting down in Dragon's Den and you're passionate about something. You have a bunch of guys who have
to offload you some cash
fund and can give you money. you can't take passion to the bank. You have to do your homework. You have to say, okay, how do I make my passion a reality? How do I convert my passion and execute it? So the first thing I always tell people that are passionate about a particular business is try and sell your business to someone that's willing to partner with you. People have issues with partnerships. I find it very funny because Nigerians and I guess it's an African thing. You want to hold on to everything.
Yeah.
Right? And it's changing now because the tech sector is really growing and a
lot of partnerships are
people
going
are now
on
understanding that if I own 3% of Paystack, I can get paid $10 million as opposed to thinking I'm owning 100% of nothing. So I think it's changing, but you need to be able to sell that idea because what now happens is, if you're able to convince another person by your passion, right? It means you're already, that's step one to executing because you'll be able to convince one person. You've convinced the person well enough that he's willing to partner with you and possibly throw in some money, use his contacts, expose you to his own world, do that, and then, between the two of you, you begin to figure out, I did that, you know what I mean? 355 was my idea, but then I called my partner who went to uni together, and our apartment was actually called 355. That's how the name came up. And we lived together in the apartment, and we had so many beautiful memories, and it was the go-to place to have fun and to hang out.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, we did that and we had fun. We can do it again and make money. Right? And he loved the idea. He bought it. I'm like, this is the role you're gonna play, right? I know you're not a business person, whatever it is, you have royalty, but this is what I need you. This is the role I need you to play. And if we do it the way I'm saying we should, we will win. You know what I mean? So, I had the resources to go on my own. I had the network to go on my own. But I always say, when you're passionate about something, you have to be able to convince someone of that passion. One person. Just try convincing one person. And you can see it with all the great people across the world. The Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, all these guys. There's one person who's either a successor today or has the second biggest shares in the company who, silent or not, you might not know some of these people. Facebook, all these guys have it. Facebook's guy went off to do his own thing. Zuckerberg went somewhere else. But these guys, they spoke about this idea together. They planned it together.
Yeah.
Some of them don't end up executing together, but there's always one person you have to be able to convince that can either tweak your mind a little bit so your passion is altered, or can open your eyes that your passion is not going to work. So you should probably go look for a new, a new idea or whatever it is. So I think that's very important. So the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. Okay, I have this passion to make this cup. I don't know how to start. I have no money. Sell it. Try and sell it to a friend, family, whatever. Just sell it to one person. Try and be able to convince them first. And then once you're successful at that, I think you're broken the red tape, and you'll figure it out. You figure it out from there.
Okay, so the next thing you kind of ran into is this idea of partnership and the culture around partnership that we seem to have here, which you said is changing, and it's visibly changing, right? We're beginning to see a lot happen in the tech space, and other businesses are starting to cultivate that. What is the most important? So let's say beyond convincing someone to run with you, if you're partnering with something or entering a partnership, what do you need to be able to see in a potential partner for your business?
So, with every partnership, there is the main person who actually, you can come up with an idea at the same time together. Right?
So there'll be a spearhead.
It's called founder, co-founder, but really and truly, it's called co-founder because you don't want anyone thinking there's any kind of hierarchy, right? But really and truly, there's a founder and there's a co-founder. It's really not co-founder, but most times what you see, it's both of them own it, which is fine. No one's fighting for territory. But there's always, my point is, there's always one person who brings it up, and then the next person kind of agrees with you, and then you guys run with it. Things that you need to look for. This is unique with the kind of business.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a business that you want to grow.
Yeah.
We're not talking about an investment. Investment is different. I don't need to know you to invest in your company.
Yeah.
Right? So that's completely different. But if you're trying to grow something, grow a business to be some multinational, or you want to, at some point in the business, list the company to go public, you have to look for a few things. The first thing you need to look for is the relationship between you and that person needs to go beyond friendship. There has to be it doesn't have to be blood, but blood shouldn't make any difference. You have to be brothers, sisters with that person. You know what I mean? Because so many people are going to say things about your partner to you that can throw things off. And it's an evil world. People just sit down, looking for ways they can break a strong bond between partners. So you need to have a relationship that can fight through some of those things. That's one, very important. Two, you have to identify the skills both of you have. Right? Some people are good at executing, right? Paperwork, or some people are good at, they're on the road, they're marketing, they're talking, they're giving it, they're giving it the spilch, right? Don't ever feel like once you identify your strengths and your weaknesses, you're never going to feel like you're doing more. So when you're going to an equal partnership with someone, the tendency for you to start feeling lax, like, what does this guy do anyway? You know what I mean? It's going to, that body language you're going to tell on your staff, and you're going to tell on your business eventually, because you're going to start slipping just because you feel like, okay, 9 years down the line or 10 years down the line, I've done all this work.
And the other person hasn't.
Yeah, and I've expanded, I've done this, I've done that. And then I have some guy who's just takes all the glory. No. Because I always tell people, right, your business is bigger than you. At some point, right, if you're truly in this to build, right, you need to understand that your business is bigger than you. So my brand is bigger than me. I'm Tola Awosika. I can only be in one place at one time, but 355 can be everywhere. So you're bigger than me, right? I might be the one that the brain box, but it's now bigger than me. So whatever you do, right, you always have to have that back of your mind, and don't let things like that. So when you identify your strengths and your weaknesses, you guys spell it out. That okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm doing. Don't come in my way. I won't come in yours. Trust that I will do what I've said I will do to the best of my ability and beyond. And I'll trust that you can do yours. If you are able to, get those two things right, most times, and it's not all the time because life just happens, right? Most times, the partnership will last a very long time. And most times, the outcome is always usually positive and good.
So we've seen, and consistently you see trends of businesses that start, fail, people doing different things and their businesses don't last. What is essential in building a business that has longevity?
Discipline. There's no other word. I always tell people, the idea of spending after saving is crucial, especially in a cash society like ours, a society that's heavily influenced by people's lifestyle. There's a certain level of military discipline you need in business. Trust me, I'm talking seeing 10 million naira in your business account, but your personal account has 100,000, right? But you know that money is tied to procurement, it's tied to paying vendors, right? It's tied to reinvesting, expanding, and the discipline to resist that trip to London that you can possibly take, right? And move things around. I can just go to London, spend 2 million of that money, no problem. When I come back, I project, we boost up the sales, I can make it up, maybe I'll reduce my dividends in Q4. then what happens when COVID hits? You're in the middle of a trip in London. Unforeseen circumstances. People make mistakes because as human beings, all we can do is plan in our heads the perfect outcome. But then life happens. So you have to have a certain level of discipline that you will not touch that cup.
So where does vision come in? Because you talked about, as human beings, we tend to try and paint the best picture in our heads. When you're in business and you're thinking for the future, where does being able to see or to try as best as possible to see the worst possible outcome come in helping you make those correct decisions? Think about the worst things that could possibly have happened so that you don't accidentally go ahead and spend money that you couldn't afford to.
So the problem is solved with discipline. Because with discipline comes calculation. It means you're calculated to the T, right? They are possible, you have a cushion for almost everything. You have plan A, plan B, plan C, right? And then when COVID happens, we all sit down at home and say, you know what? God take all of us. Because this one, I mean, you can do everything right, but you can't plan for COVID. You just can't. And at that point, you let the world fix itself, right? And you do what you can, but you're in a better position of surviving because you're disciplined, because you have cushion, because you've made a plan A, B, C. You are in a better position than the next guy, and that's why you're going to survive, and that's why you're going to get a grant, and that's why you'll be more attractive to a bank to give you a bailout, because they've seen that trajectory, and the only thing that you couldn't plan for was a natural disaster. You know what I mean? So discipline solves majority of that problem. So I think when you're putting your vision together, and you're trying to envision where your company is going to be in 10 years or in 5 years, let discipline be at the forefront of whatever plan is going to be. Because for me, from the moment I opened my first business, I had a plan to get to 10x, and from 10x I have my plan. What I want to do after 10x. That was done from day one. Now, in between 1 and 10, a lot of things will change. You have to move things around. You might not meet all the timelines, but with the vision, the structure, the discipline, you will get there.
You said earlier on that one of the big things for you is you decided it was a passion for lifestyle, right? It's why you're in hospitality, restaurant business, fitness and everything. What motivates you? Like, what is that thing that motivates you in every business? What is that thing that keeps you going?
So, I always told myself that under 40, I wanted to be the biggest employer of labor in terms of young people. Age bracket between anything from 22 to 35. I want to be that guy that employs 90% of those people, right? So I opened businesses with the mindset of employing. Businesses that can bring in more hands to help me get to my goal. So I wake up every morning and I'm driven by that goal. I need to get to this goal. I need to open more businesses. I need to open more restaurants. I need to open more fitness clubs. I need to open more hotels. Because the more I expand, the more I can help people. The more my true passion for the people and for our country is realized. But I'm doing that by driving my business with heavy level of discipline and structure. But at the same time, that fire is burning because at the back of my mind, I know this is what I'm trying to achieve, and I know this is what I'm really, really passionate about is the people. You know what I mean? Because like I always tell people, 90% of our problems in this country will be solved if people had exactly what they do. We have a population of people that wake up and they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how they're going to eat. They don't know what is next for them. If you can build businesses that can create careers for people, whether it's housekeeping, or it's being on the floor, or it's being a barback. These are industries globally, right, that people have been successful from. You can stand out as the best barman in the whole of West Africa, right, and open your own institute of bar to train people, or mixologists or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? But you have to be able to open people's eyes, and create those sectors. And once you do that, the fire never stops, because there's so much to do. You know what I mean? There's so much to do, very little time. So for me, I wake up every morning, wanting to do more because of that.
Yeah. Without encouraging any competitors, right? So outside of lifestyle stuff, what would you say are the big areas in which we can start to create employment in Nigeria?
Of course. So the obvious one is agriculture, simply because we have it all. It just doesn't make sense that you can leave a seed somewhere and come back in 3 months and it's a tree. The tree is growing and harvest starts or whatever. So agriculture is big, definitely a big sector, simply because it's everywhere. There's no ethnic issue. Every state, every part of the country has what is unique to them.
Yeah.
It makes sense. There's still a food deficit in the country. We still largely rely on imports. So it's a sector that needs to be encouraged, and more light needs to be thrown on it. The second sector, of course, technology is it's huge. The whole world is getting smaller because of technology. Nigeria has tremendous talent in tech. Trust me, I in the last 3 years, I've done a lot of tech investments, invested in a lot of startups, and I see some of these kids. These guys are amazing. What they can do. So that sector needs to be fully developed. And I know Lagos State, Microsoft, and Facebook and all these guys have these huge plans. But again, let's try and localize it. So they don't keep exporting our talent out, because that's pretty much what is happening here. These guys are not here. Like the oil sector, they came very early. They saw what we had. They put in investments, and then they started taking all our stuff. We don't need to make that mistake twice. Technology is the future. I think our government needs to be very careful about how they mortgage that, because I'm seeing, early signs that there's a lot of potential. Microsoft promising to build a technology village in Yaba. We don't want you to build a village. You know what I mean? Go borrow money and build a village yourself. And get these guys to tie into the country's vision. Because this is the mistake we've always made. And our leaders, unfortunately, their short-sightedness, have kept them making those decisions. Always going to keep mortgaging the future. So technology is a big one. The third one is manufacturing. No country can survive on imports. Forget it. And that's one major reason why I went into manufacturing. Because at some point, right, we're going to come to a hold. We almost did during COVID, right, where the entire world is thrown into confusion, and then you're trying to get food across to Africa.
Everyone's trying to hold their own country for themselves.
You guys are not priority,
right?
Because no one cares about you, and you don't produce anything, right? At some point, we're going to implode. So for me, it's very, very crucial for entrepreneurs to think less about the quick money and start focusing on building. I know it's a lot harder, and trust me, I've been in manufacturing now for 8 years, but it's a very tough sector because the government all the odds are against you, right? The government doesn't really pay much attention. The infrastructure in the country isn't the greatest. So you're having to do so many things that you shouldn't be doing in that sector, but that's like everything else in Nigeria. But so people run away from it because it's just at a much bigger scale. But 10 years down the line, it's going to be a different conversation, right? When there's a war, because there's always going to be wars. When there's a war somewhere, some conflict somewhere in West Africa or East Africa, the WHO is going to come to me and tell me I should produce X amount of IV fluids and fly it to them because there's conflict here. They're not going to ask you to go buy it from the market or buy. They're going to. So you have to start thinking this way: what problem can I solve
before the problem comes?
Exactly. So the point is, whatever it is, no matter how little it is, we don't produce anything. And again, we're making the same mistake by letting, again, with all due respect, I'm just patriotic to my country. We're letting the foreigners take on that huge responsibility. We're mortgaging our lives again. I plow down Lagos Ibadan Expressway 4 times a week when I'm going to my facility, and I see all the factories that are springing up, and I ask questions, and it's the Chinese, it's the Indians, the Lebanese. What's going on? What's going on? You know, I'm like, you guys are gonna come again, take all the juice, and then we're going to remain staff.
How do we make sure? Because I know, like we said, it's such a tight situation right now that we're in. You're trying to equip and empower the next generation, empower young people, employ as many as possible. Because about 70% of our population is under the age of 35.
Right.
That's huge. How do we begin to put ourselves in a position, one, where we can either empower them to create their own stuff, or begin to better create opportunities for them where there's that long-sightedness that, you know, we can start to have vision. I think a lot of the reason you talked about how, you know, the problem is a lot of people are looking to feed today. We're very short-sighted. How do we take away the desperation so that they can have that vision?
So you said one thing, 70% of our population is under 35, right?
Yeah.
There's only one solution. Get rid of the guys in government. Clean them out, right? And I'm telling people this for the last 2 elections, right? Without being partisan, right? Or without being, because I'm like, everyone is involved in politics one way or the other, because you play politics every day as you live, right? But don't let these guys keep playing with your destiny. You have to get rid of these guys because, one, they don't have a 40-year plan for you because they can't be alive in 40 years. These guys are 86 already, 90. These guys have no vision for you. They don't feel your pain because they have money, right? They're never going to understand because they're so behind. Get rid of these guys. Put in people that are like-minded, people who have probably been through what you've been through, people who are in the same age bracket. Give these guys, or try them out. Give these guys the responsibility of securing your future, right? Then you stand a chance. Until we do that, we're joking.
I want to go back and really just kind of focus on how you started to spread businesses. Because when you're going into a new venture, you start out with 355. How do you pick what's next? And do you have a pre-made strategy for the businesses you go into?
Right. So my strategy is simple. I don't build what I'm not interested in. Because interest is what can keep the momentum going and keeps you encouraged and keeps you motivated. I invest. Investments are different from building. Yeah. So I can invest in something like, you know, it's funny, I'm the most uninterested in oil and gas. I've never been interested in oil and gas. I feel it's for lazy people. It's very controversial. So I've never been an oil and gas person. Similar to oil and gas, but not the same opinion, is agriculture. For some reason, I'm not really interested in agriculture, but I see the potential, I see the need, so I invest, right? But I have to. So my decision to invest in something else is driven from interest and passion, right? So I look at it. Okay, this is quite interesting. I see how I can add value. I see how I can grow it, how I can scale, and then I make that decision from there. It's not really, those decisions are made around that. So typically, that's how I move on to the next thing. And I like to tie things together. So if you look at it, again, always looking to solve a problem. And this was my vision, 355 group from beginning. I wanted to put everything in one room. So when I started the restaurants, right, I knew, okay, what will be the next phase? And it's a five phase thingy that I'm operating. So the restaurants are there. The fitness clubs came after. The security company came after, because I have a security company that does corporate guards and private protection, some maritime operations offshore, and then the hotels came. So the hotel was going to tie in all three. So I put all my businesses in one room. So I have a hotel. That hotel runs independently as a hotel. We sell your bed, That's what we sell in a hotel. 355 sells you your food. So for every hotel I own, 355 comes in as a separate company, a sister company, to run the F&B. My gym, Fitness Central, comes in to manage fitness operations. My security company, Optimal, handles security. But it's all it's under the group, but they're all independent companies. They all have independent, strict structures. They do not, I mean, of course, in business, is our internal decision whether or not we want to, back one of the business that might be suffering or might be having issues. So internally, you have things like intercompany loans. We move things around as sister companies, but those things are strictly done by agreements. Interests are paid. So if I needed to loan the hotel some money because it just started operations just a year ago, I can borrow it from one of the 355s, and every 355 is also independent. There are also sub-companies of the sister companies. So that's the way I've done the structure. And the fifth tier is the grocery stores. So I'm rolling out a bunch of grocery stores. It's still in the F&B family. That's called 365 Express. And then, so it all ties in together. But then I try as much as possible to separate the businesses, but understanding that you guys can work together and you guys can benefit and feed off each other. So that's how I've built the...
So in terms of suggesting that, right, people that want to be serial entrepreneurs as opposed to individually start one business, how important is it to think about how you can leverage on other businesses to build the success of one another? Because when people come up with vision, how much do you say that you guys you have to think about what strategically you can do with one business that would help make all of them thrive? Because literally, like you've said, if your hotel is in one place, you've got to eat. Someone is staying in your hotel, they're eating at your restaurant. Suddenly, that one customer has fed all 5 businesses.
So what you do is pretty simple. You don't look for things that complement. Don't be greedy. Now, what Nigerian businesses do is we put in things within the business that cannot check each other. So it's very easy for me to go set up a procurement company and do procurement for all my businesses. And that's where checks and balances come in. I can't be the guy signing the check and auditing the books, even as an owner. That's not business. So what people do is, as opposed to looking for the compliments, right? They see it as, okay, if I'm producing soap, right? Or I'm producing shea butter, let me set up a procurement company that buys the shea butter, and then my company buys it for me, right? So you're going down that line, but it's dangerous because it doesn't directly complement. It conflicts, because what happens when there's a drop in price, right?
Start charging yourself differently.
There's a supplier who can supply cheaper, but because you're the person,
you keep buying from
you don't even look. That's the issue. So people, when they're thinking about those things, you have to look for things that will complement. For example, I give you, for 355 does the food F&B for the hotel, but pays the hotel 20% revenue from every single plate that is sold. You have to. I'm giving you business, you must pay me. I don't care if you're my sister company. And I have the managers, sometimes the managers actually fight each other. The GM of the hotel is like, look, every Monday they do reconciliation. Okay, you guys, we did X amount in F&B sales. This is my portion. Finance, I need my money in my account. Right? So you have to do things that complement, but you have to do it in a very transparent way for it to grow and for it to make sense. If not, it'll be very unattractive to investors, because it just seems like there's something going on. Even when there's nothing, try and avoid writing the check and being the auditor. You know what I mean? Try and avoid that. Try and give your finance department a lot of autonomy to check you. I don't play with those books. You guys need to, if I'm telling you to pay somebody, you need to ask me, who are we paying and why? you know, because these are things that down the line, if you really want to you execute your actual vision, at some point you're looking to scale, you're looking to bring in investors, you're looking to sell, liquidate 60% of your company. These are the things that actually bring value, as opposed to your raw assets or the brick and mortar. So
when
be very careful.
you want to scale a company, right? What are important things that you have to know? They have to be able to answer. You have to be able to do to make sure that your business is actually scalable. What are the questions that, from the perspective of you when you're looking as an investor, what are the things that someone needs to be able to answer with confidence and with good knowledge of the numbers and everything that help give you confidence as an investor in a business?
So, I mean, I said earlier that a lot of people, entrepreneurs, they focus their success on Instagram and Facebook, and they spend time showing videos of how nice their place looks, and they give people the perception that they're doing well, but they're bleeding. It's internal bleeding. For you to scale, you must have a viable reason to scale. Your business will be viable. To know if your business is viable, you have to first, there are steps. So you do a market check. Okay, is there a market for this? I'm not just going to open shop because I want to have 2 locations or 3 locations. In this area, what is the demographic of people in this area? What's the spending power? Do your proper research, right? Do all the financial analysis, your projections and everything that you want to do. Look at the macro. Macro is always, it's always important. The economy. At this time, one of the things, is it smart for me to open a new outlet 6 months to general elections, even if the macro is looking good and the projections are looking good? There are other factors like insecurity. There are other factors like chaos. There are other factors like so many factors that politically you have to consider as a business, and that's why 18 months before elections, the foreign financial companies, they pull out all their investment from Nigeria because it's too volatile. So even as a small business or a medium business or a large business, when you're considering scaling, you have to look at some of those things. Okay, in Nigeria, logistics is a nightmare. So when you're scaling, you have to say, okay, I'm going to open something in the far north. Okay, I struggle to go places that I can't have direct access. So that was one of my considerations. So when I opened in Calabar, Abuja was my first outlet out of Lagos.
Yeah.
That was pretty easy because that's 15 minutes away. And it's a place I've lived, a place I know, a lot of friends. I have a good network there. So it was a no-brainer. It's a federal capital as well. It's good spending power. I looked at Calabar. I think Calabar was the third. Yeah. I went in there with direct flight. I had a good partner. That was one of my strongest reasons for going. I had good government back in there, based on by virtue of the partnership. We were going into a mall, so my risk was limited. I didn't have to stand on my own brick and mortar, where I have to manage my gen, I have to manage my everything, my security. The mall just came up, the massive mall in Calabar, so it made sense. So you have to look at all the different factors. Logistics, okay, how do I get my stakes down there? How many flights a day go? How long will it take a bus to get to Kano? I'm opening one in Kano now next week. And then so you look at the uniqueness of the situation, look at the environment, look at the economy, and then you make a decision based on that. It cannot be around sentiment. It can't, I'm from Ondo, right? I do a lot of things in Ondo that impact people. My foundation does a lot of things. But I'm not going to be sentimental and say I want to open 355 there. There's no market for me. If I'm doing that, I know it's charity. You know what I mean? But that boy is your home. I get it, right? But it's business.
Yeah.
When I want to go there, I know I'm going there not to make money. I'm going there for charity, right? And that's also fine. But at least it shouldn't be my priority. You know what I mean? So things like that, you cannot make emotional decisions when you're making those. And again, if you do go into any of those expansions and it doesn't work out, hang in there. But you have to you have to know when to quit. You have to know when to quit. I've opened shops somewhere, I've closed it. I've reopened another place. Because I'm not going to, you can't keep taking from Peter to pay Paul. You know what I mean? You have to just look at this thing very, very objective. You know, I know people tie a lot of emotions because it's your baby. You built it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's painful. I get it, but sometimes you have to put it aside and make some really hard decisions that I'm sure will pay off.
Yeah.
Because you reduce the pressure, the burden. Sometimes when things are not really working out, close the doors for some time. Give yourself some time to breathe, reconsider, reevaluate, and then go back to the drawing board.
Can you give me an example, just before we wrap up, can you give me an example of a position or experience you've been in where something has been failing and you've had to pull the plug? Can you give me an example of that experience? Because I think a lot of people, like you said, very emotional with that kind of decision.
So I've had, a few of those experiences, but I'm like, my Calabar one, for example. I was in the mall. I got into the mall, okay, it's a new mall. I didn't really know much about the area, but I was more considering safety. And because it's in the mall, the shared facilities, Spa is there, it's Spa Mall. They had so many prospects of bringing in the cinema operator, and they convinced me about how so many outlets were going to come, Med Plus, and all the different players, the usual suspects you see in all these malls, how this retailer was coming. So when you're in the mall, you survive based off foot traffic, majorly. Of course, you do your marketing and people come in, but people stumble on you. That's what the whole idea about being in the mall. And the contracts were watertight. Their figures, service charge per square meter, rental per square meter. These were heavy. These were heavy figures. These were figures these were Lagos rates. I was paying 13 million a year in Calabar for a 250 square meter space. That's the same amount you pay in Landmark. You know what I mean? And this was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So I and the business was paying. We started off and I brought something different, to the Calabar mix. I had Mexican cuisine, but I had to localize it as well. So I had 2 fusions running. And then after a while, when I guess spending power reduced or people felt like we're a bit too expensive and maybe alternatives came, it started going down. And I found that I had to get HQ to keep supporting them, and we're always in the back and forth conversations, late on our rent, late on our service charge. I was always going back and forth with this guy. So I told my guys, you should close the doors. Let's come together. Let's see what's going on. And I looked through the books and I realized that they were making money, but the place was too expensive for them. So I said, close. Go and rent a place that is 3 million for a year. Do it up, smash up the entire place. Do it up to our own standard. Be in control of. We've been in Calabar long enough. We understand the terrain. We have loyal staff. And let's go do this on our own. So I closed it for about a year. Shut it down completely. Lights turned off. No communication with these guys. And when the dust settled and I was back energized again to go do it on my own and do it better, I went back. But I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to be sentimental in the fact that let's just it's not that bad. Maybe things will pick up. Let's wait for Calabar Carnival. I'm like, listen, none of that, because aside from bleeding financially, it's emotionally draining. Having to deal with an outlet that is not really profitable. And
how long do you watch a bleeding dog bleed before you decide to put it out?
Your bleeding is usually determined by what is in the account. So it gets to a certain point where you were hitting red. I'm like, you know what, can't continue. So if you have all the money in the world, you can sit. There are stores, and you know this. There are stores on Bond Street that you see, and there's no way these guys are paying their rental. But these guys have hedge funds that are backing them, that have monies locked in for 100 years. These guys are. They are there for a different reason. It might be brand positioning. So if I had KFC franchise money, where I just talk to HQ and say, guys, look, it's a bit slow now, but let's hang in there for 5 more years, and let's throw this in as a negative on our books. then maybe.
Yeah.
But it's a factor of what you have in the bank. It's not really about patience.
Yeah.
As much as I would love, but at the same time, it's also, really, is this the place for you? That decision was made by me. Like the setup, I'm having a lot of issues, even with the mall. I was like, look, let me just. It's all crashing.
Yeah.
So it's time. It wasn't just about the financial position of the business. So.
Okay. So one thing I like to do is I always like to ask people 3 golden nuggets that you would give any entrepreneur starting out today, and golden nuggets you have not yet mentioned so far.
I think the first one would be put God first. You can be the smartest person in the world, most disciplined, but you have to have a check. And as human beings, you might feel some kind of way when your wife checks you. You might feel like you've achieved enough for your parents not to tell you you're wrong. You might feel your staff is your staff. So I don't care what you say. So there's only one person who you can speak to, and you're not bigger than. So put God at the forefront of your business, whatever you do. Talk to Him, irrespective of whatever religion you are. Talk to Him, get His approval, disapproval. So I think that's number one, and that's the most important. Second nugget would be big risks, big reward. Calculated a little bit, but be willing to risk it. I always tell people nobody dies. Nobody dies. It can get really hard, but as long as you're still breathing, you live to fight another day. So take the risk, fight it out, and think fingers crossed, you scale through. And the final one is just enjoy it. Enjoy the good times, the bad times. Always be willing to learn. I always tell people, just be relaxed about anything you do. When you're relaxed, you're always in a better position to make clearer and cleaner decisions. So see everything as it's fun. It's a ride, whether it's rough or smooth, but it's fun. So just enjoy it. Be joyful about it, anything you do, and you come out on top. You feel good about it.
All right, Tola, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.